Diane. And this episode, I'm focusing on some of the things that I did in May and our excitement and anticipation of June, because today is May 31st. And I know a lot of people think that May went by really fast, and I understand that. And I think as we get older, time does seem to go by fast. But I feel like I squeezed every minute of joy out of the month of May. I worked on a lot of my projects. We worked in our home. We did some gardening. I went off several times and visited Mom. We got some, maintenance doctor's appointments out of the way. And it just feels like, wow, and it's still May. So tomorrow is June 1st. And so I thought this episode I would share with you some of the things that went on in May and some of the excitement and joyful anticipation I have for June. So I hope you enjoyed that footage that I started with. That was the raised gardening that I did. This is my second year using raised beds. I had good luck with that last year. I enjoyed not worrying about the deer and, having to, net everything off. And so I have two 2-by-8-foot cedar raised beds and one 2-by-4. And I can get quite a bit in there. Some of the changes I made from last year, it was easy for me to make those changes because I kept a gardening journal last year for this purpose, so that I could go back and see what was the weather like, what kind of soil did I use, what plants did I get a lot of bounty from, and what didn't really serve us well. So this year I am not doing cucumbers or green peas or green beans. We don't even eat enough peas to warrant the space in the garden to raise peas. And green beans, the same thing. So this year I put in some zucchini. We eat a lot of zucchini. I like it steamed. We like it roasted. I like it even raw in a crudité. And I put in some long Japanese eggplant. And we eat a lot of eggplant in the summer as well. I like to fry it. I like to roast it. And so we'll see how that goes. So both of those plants will grow up the trellises. I did 2 types of tomatoes this year. Last year I did the Roma tomato, which it was okay. I didn't think they were that great. I decided I would rather grow the kind of tomato that I want to make a tomato sandwich with, like a nice big slice on, some toasted bread with mayonnaise. I mean, to me, that's just summer. So I did put in 4 big boy plants, and I also put in the sweet 100 cherry tomatoes. I've been doing that for years. I love them. They're great. I mean, you can eat them right off the vine. They make a lovely bruschetta, a tomato sauce, like a pasta sauce, a fresh sauce, like with garlic and basil and tomato. And what else did I put in? I put in some celery and some parsley and some peppers, a couple of different kinds of peppers. And one thing I noted last year was I really enjoyed having a flower garden in the raised beds. So this year, the bed that is right outside our back door, I put zinnias and cosmos and some alyssum. And my mother has incredible luck with zinnias. I do not, but I've never grown them in raised beds before, so we'll see how it goes. I already have several cosmos flowering, and I did notice that the more I cut, the more I get. So I'm looking forward to cutting a small bouquet. Okay, so that's what was going on in the garden, and so what was going on as far as my knitting goes in May? Well, I'm wearing one of my finished garments. This is the End Pullover. This pattern is by Purlsoho. And what caught my attention, and I'm going to insert some photos of the front and back of this. What caught my attention about this pattern is I saw it as a great opportunity to use up a lot of my leftover linen quill. So if you, like me, have made, I'm going to stand up, have made the half and half shawls, you probably have some leftover linen quill. And I had bought this raspberry and this orange thinking I was going to make a raspberry orange linen quill half and half, but I really didn't like the combinations together. I made it, I ripped it out, I stored the yarn. I made a navy blue with oatmeal, and I have used that shawl, and I have a variegated yarn here that is not linen quill, but I bought it to make a shawl, a small little scarf, and I never used it. So that's what's in here, a combination of 3 colors of linen quill, the raspberry, I think this was called poppy orange, and this navy blue, and I added a variegated as well. That was the same weight. This is fingering weight yarn. I used a size 4 needle This is knit side to side. I have talked about this, and I will note which episodes. I've talked about this quite a few times. And this morning I finished it off. So I did the seaming on the sleeve, which is the seam is on the right side, so you see the seam. I did the seam on the sides. And then because I had a different gauge with that yarn, that variegated yarn, the neck was a little wonky. So with a crochet hook and a size US 4 crochet hook, I just did 1 crochet stitch for every stitch all the way across. And the back I did all raspberry because I had so much of it. And I'm very, very pleased. And this is the first time I've put it on. I'll have my husband take a few pictures of me wearing it so you can kind of see the drape. Linenquill has a wonderful drape. It's one of the things I love the most about it. And I think that's why it continues to be such a popular yarn. I do think, because I have so much orange left over and raspberry, I keep thinking I should probably pick up something, you know, fluorescent and bright and happy to go with that, like maybe even like a limey green, and make something, maybe just get 1 skein of that and use it with these and make maybe some kind of a shawl or something, a summer weight shawl, so that I can use up the rest of this linen quilt. This is a winner. So I will have the details so that you can go online. But if you go into Purlsoho and you look up the end to end, you'll find this pattern. Okay, so that was a big win for me to get this done. And just speaking of leftover linen quilt and leftover fingering weight, because if you're like anything like me and you've made some of those sweaters that have like a yoke with 1 color and then a solid color, or if you've made the Sophie hoods or the Sophie scarves, you've got a lot of fingering weight left over. This was, I showed this to you last year. This is a pattern, I think it was called the Sunshine pattern. I modified it, but I will put it in the show notes. And I used a bunch of leftover yarn. This had leftover sock yarn, leftover Charlemont from Webb's, which is a fingering weight. Everything on here is fingering weight. It was all leftover yarn from previous projects. And I have piles of that, and I plan on doing more of that. I did a little picot edge on this one just to give it a feminine look. I haven't worn this yet, but I'm thinking that one night if we go out to dinner or if we're walking around town and it gets cool, because it's still cool. Today it's only 64 degrees on Block Island, and yesterday we had a major storm come through, 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. It was 48 before the wind chill, so we can still be wearing, you know, a shawl or a scarf or a lightweight sweater. So this is how I'm using up my leftover stuff, my leftover yarn. And it is still a theme in this year. Last year, I think I mentioned it to you, and I mentioned it to you at the beginning of this year. I'm trying not to just buy so much stuff. I have gone through this entire house and weeded out, and I'm doing the same thing with my yarn. I'm using my yarn. Okay, the next finish project I have on the needles is very exciting. So I bought this yarn. Oh, I hope I brought the tag up. Anyway, it's Knitting for Olive, pure silk, and I went undyed. And I found a pattern online called the Drifting Wave Tee. And this is the pattern. And I'm also going to show you some photos. It's V-neck in the front, V-neck in the back. The V-neck in the back is a little lower than the V-neck in the front. It's one piece. It is seamless. You start in the back shoulder. Now, this was a very interesting construction for me. And so let me find my glasses. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So it's the Drifting Wave Tee, and it's by Aneta, A-N-E-T-A, Bleyer. And she did recommend Knitting for Olive. And there are several projects out there. So I was able to look at this. There's 131 projects. I don't think this is a new pattern. I think it's been out for a little while, but I was looking for something with a V. I wanted to use that silk. If you recall, last year or 2 years ago, I made my mother a silk tee using the same yarn in lavender, and I loved working with it. You know, it's dry. It's not a processed silk. It doesn't have a sheen on it. It's very dry. I think right now we're seeing in the fashion industry real move towards more natural fibers. We're seeing more cotton and more linen and more silk. And I love that look. To me, those are classic fabrics, classic fibers. And I, as you know, as a woman who's 5'8", who, you know, is like a size 8, 10, I like to wear classic pieces that are not tight, but are not too loose, but that help me feel confident. And I find that natural colors, natural fibers, a little pop of color here and there serves my wardrobe well. And so I was looking for something like that. And I hadn't done cables in a long time, and I wanted to do something with some cables. So I used a size 3 needle, which is what was recommended in the pattern. The only time you go down to a 2 is when you do this very sweet I-cord. I did my I-cord backwards. It was a 4-stitch I-cord, and I did it inside out because I didn't want the I-cord to look too big. So when you're done, you're done. Challenges. Okay, if you don't like a chart, you're going to be okay, because this pattern has charts and every single line is written out. Occasionally, it'll say repeat such and such a row. So you have to keep track of if you're going back and forth and you're repeating a row. I used my Knit Companion. I was happy I did that, because in Knit Companion, and I don't know if you get this when you have the free, but if you can check it out. I think you do, but if you subscribe, you certainly get the opportunity to use colored markers and an eraser. So I was very sure that I checked off the rows with a certain color, and if I was doing a repeat, if I was going back and forth, I used a different color. That way I wouldn't get confused. Am I on row 38 for the first time, or is this 38 for the third time? Am I really on row 54, but I'm repeating 38? So just be aware of that. The charts, I referred to the chart once or twice when I thought I was making a mistake, and in fact I was. For some reason I did exactly what I said. I got off track as to where I was going back and forth, and I kept going in the wrong spot instead of going back to where I was. And so I had to go back, and I had to take out a couple of cables and turn them sooner. I know how to do that. I don't know if you know how to do that, but if you turn the cable in the wrong spot, you don't have to rip the whole row out or several rows. You can just get to the next row and just rip back on the cable until you're where you're supposed to be and rework the cable. If anybody is interested in me doing a little, I won't call it a tutorial, but if you're interested in seeing me undo a cable and redo a cable, let me know. I'd be happy to do that, especially after I've done it. I had to do it, it was these 3 right here. I had to do these 3 in the front and in the back. It was a pleasure to work on. Like I said, it's very interesting construction. You're working in the shoulder and the back, and then the shoulder and the front, and the shoulder and the left, and the shoulder and the right. But again, because it's one row at a time, I read the whole pattern through once, and then I said, okay, I'm just gonna do one row at a time and enjoy the process. And I'll have my husband take some photos of me. I have a nice pair of linen slacks. I'm hoping to wear this. I'm going to my mother's garden club luncheon again this June, and I'm hoping to wear this with the linen slacks maybe, or a linen skirt. So I have 2 finished projects, and I'm really excited about that. And other than some socks that I have, you know, some second sock syndrome that I've got to work on, that's kind of where I am with the knitting. Now, because I still have so much of this linen quill left over, I'm doing a couple of little things like making maybe a few Sophie scarves, either for myself or, you know, for Christmas, or just to add to a little gift. So, you know, I'm gonna do a few of those, maybe a Sophie hood. And again, maybe another shawl that I can either gift or keep, where I can incorporate some of these luscious colors from linen quill. The other thing that I'm working on right now is I still haven't switched out my summer winter clothes. I haven't washed my knits. I haven't stowed them into my cedar chest because my summer clothes are in the cedar chest right now. But it's time. I think we're gonna, starting today, the weather is starting to get warmer. And so I reached into my little bowl where I have all this lavender that I picked from last year. I gave quite a bit away at Christmas time with Christmas gifts. I have some in, you know, different drawers and closets, but I kept some fresh ones so that as I wash, especially, well, anything that I wore, okay? So if I wore it, that means I got some skin on it, probably some, dry skin or some moisturizer or some perfume, or maybe, I spilled something on it and didn't notice it. So if you don't wash those sweaters, you, I think, are just inviting the possibility of moths, because moths, it's not the grown moth that, the moth itself that's eating your woolens. It's the moth that is deposited and laid eggs in your wool, because they know there's going to be something there for those little, wormy caterpillars to eat. So that's what they're looking for. That's why they go into your wools, because maybe your wool has got some food in it or something dirty in it. So I'm not going to take that chance. I have never had them. I don't want to jinx myself. So I will wash in my lavender wool wash in my nice big sink. I think I showed you a little tour of we renovated our kitchen over the winter. And one of the things I'm enjoying so much is the big sink. I had a divided sink. I know a lot of people love that. And if that works for you, wonderful. It was not working for me in so many ways. I have a lot of big pots, but when I'm blocking now, I have this whole sink. I can block more than one thing. And I have a couple of white sweaters that I want to block, and I'm going to do them at the same time. And I also purchased, and I'm showing you a photo of it, I don't know how this is going to work out yet, but I bought a drying rack. I had one before. It was kind of inexpensive, and it had some kind of stain on it. I don't know why they did that, but the stain came off on my white t-shirts one year when I was drying my white t-shirts. So I had watched another YouTuber, Scandish Home, and I've gotten a lot of good tips from her, and she recommended these drying racks, and they come from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Dutch country, and they're beautifully made, and you can get a whole queen size comforter over them. I've had it outside, inside, and I think what I'm going to do, so I don't want to stretch anything, but I'm going to see if I can lay my blocking mats across and make like shelves and do multiple levels and dry, and then put them in my cedar chest with my fresh lavender, and say goodbye until next fall, and take out some of my linens and my cotton and some of my summer clothes. So I might even work on that later on today. Okay, so another thing this is the pleasurable anticipation of June. June is a time of year where we have visits. So our very good friends, Mary Lou and Rich, are coming to visit this coming week. They're coming in the middle of the week because they're retired like we are. They don't have to, they live on Cape Cod. So they don't have to come off on a Friday and go back on a Sunday like everybody else migrating on and off the island, right? They can come off in the middle of the week. And so I am so excited about that. Now, my friend Mary Lou loves lemon curd as much as I do. And so I am going to make that lemon curd berry tart again. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know what the main dinner is going to be. We've been thinking about it a little bit. We all like a good steak, and it's going to be nice weather to grill, so it's very likely going to be a steak on the grill with that lemon berry tart for dessert. I love preparing my home for art. I mean, I love beautiful things. I don't mean necessarily expensive things. I mean a little vase of flowers, or I just like little vignettes of beautifulness. And so for me to be able to share that, or prepare a guest room and a bathroom for our friends, is something I really look forward to. So I'll be stripping the bed. I have this lovely lavender spray, linen spray. I won't iron all the sheets, but I do like to spray the lavender linen spray on the pillowcases and press those and put them on the bed. I'll open the window, air out the room. This guest room was recently repainted and redone. It has new bedding, so I feel really good about that. I have to move some of the winter coats back into storage and make some room in there. And I'll put a little bouquet of flowers in there. And that bathroom has been redone, so I'm looking forward to, them being able to step into a shower. We had a bathtub, and, we're all getting a little older, and the thought of climbing over the tub wasn't making my husband and I feel good. So I'm happy that they're going to be able to walk into the nice shower. I've hung some nice artwork in there, my uncle's artwork and some of my own. And I enjoy setting a nice table. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just something pretty, and playing some nice music. I've got some nice play sets that I want to put on, and just enjoy catching up with our friends. And then the following week, I'm going off island. I'm going to my mother's garden club lunch, and as I said, I'm probably going to wear this, and I'm going to bring Mom back with me. And it'll be the first time she's been on the island in a little while, so I'm looking forward to having Mom here too. Oh my goodness, let's see, what else did I want to share with you? I feel like I have so much. Oh, Okay, last time we were together, I was talking to you about the boucle, mohair boucle that I had. And I'm showing you some photos, but here it is. This is what's left. I bought this boucle when I was at Rhinebeck. It'll be 3 years in October. I had mom in mind when I bought it. And this year I decided, like 3 weeks before Mother's Day, to make her a Chanel-inspired boucle jacket. I ended up carrying it with a thread of a strand of silk mohair in teal, which really made this a cooler color. And I designed and knit my mother a Chanel-inspired jacket. And here are some photos of it. I am thrilled with the outcome. I did make some notes. I do not plan on publishing this pattern. That is not something I'm interested in. I don't want to be a I don't want to have to figure that out. You know, what if you want to make it in a larger size, or what if you want to make it in a small? I'm thrilled. I made it so that it fits my mother. And so, but I will consider making myself a boucle, Chanel inspired jacket at some point. I had a good experience with it. You know, I did it in garter stitch, so the knitting was easy. It was the math and making sure that, you know, the sleeve was going to be the right fit underneath the arm. I made mom's in a V in the front, and I decided I wanted to finish it with a little ruffle. I do believe that was knitting for olive mohair, silk mohair, in that very soft green that I used that when I made my fern sweater, so I had a leftover skein. And I made little faux pocket, you know, pocket flaps, not real pockets. I didn't want to add any bulk to the hip area. And I put little buttons, and I had the buttons in my stash. And also, I think I showed you inside the inside flap of the jacket, I put my one of my labels. And I very seldom put a label in, especially a garment, because I don't want that scratchy feeling. But because it was going to be inside the flap, and my mother gave me those labels many, I'm going to say over 20 years ago for Christmas one year. And I have I don't think I've ever used it because it's such a good size. It's really for a coat or a jacket. And so when it was all completed, I said, I am going to put one of those labels in. So I gave it to Mom on Mother's Day. It fits her beautifully. I really would love if I can get a photo of her in it. I was there, but we were so busy on Mother's Day, and she wore it. I never snapped off a photo. So if between the time I film this and the time I upload it, I can get my sister-in-law to take a photo of her in it, I will include it. Otherwise, I'll get the photo when I go off for her garden club luncheon. So that was a lot of fun. So see what I mean about May? I made a jacket for my mother. I went off for Mother's Day. I planted my raised beds. I finished this. I knit this, and it's all been good. And what else did I want to share with you? So the island is, it wasn't a great Memorial Day weekend for the island because we had not very good weather. It was rainy, it was windy. I mean, people came out, they did their best, but my husband and I didn't go out. We were happy to stay in. And then yesterday we had this crazy freak storm, and they shut down the ferries in the afternoon. But today the sun is shining, and I'm gonna go out and water, and maybe we'll go out one night with our friends and go out for a nice meal. We haven't really done that yet. And I am just looking forward to June and time with my mom and our friends. And I hope that you are in a good place. I hope that you're enjoying this time of year as well, and you have something good on your needles. I don't know what my next project is going to be. I do have that Advent shawl that I want to weave in the ends and block, and I'll show that to you next time because I'm going to donate that to the medical center again this year. So I don't know, I maybe might like to make another little linen weight. I got to see what's in the stash. Linen weight or cotton top, or maybe a linen-y cotton bag to take to the beach. I don't know, we shall see. Okay, my friends, I also want to thank you very much for the beautiful comments that you gave me and Yvonne, my good friend who I interviewed last year. It was so good for her to hear from you and to get that positive feedback. She is an incredibly talented human being and a very generous, kind human being. And I think it was good for her to see her work on the big screen because she watches it on her television, and for her children to see it. I mean, they get this from her all the time. She's always giving them a knitted piece, but to see it on the big screen, I think that was a really good experience for her, and it was really fun for me to introduce you to her. And I'm hoping that there will be a part 2. So, okay, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna leave you with some footage. I don't know what it's gonna be yet because I'm maybe something, we went on a beach walk, we went on a trail, we will see. Until the next time, take care and happy June. Bye-bye. Well, I knew there was something else I wanted to share with you. I wanted to talk to you about some books I'm thinking about, books I plan on reading this summer. Okay, here they are. I don't know if that will show up backwards or not. I'm looking at it backwards. Anyway, so disclaimer. I got all 3 of these books at Barnes & Noble when I was off last time I visited Mom. I usually read from my Kindle because I'm usually traveling. But in the summer, when I'm just going to be in the yard on the patio or I'm going to be at the beach, I like to feel the book in my hand. I like to see a cover. I like to read all the little, bits and pieces that are in the front and back covers. I find that when I read from my Kindle, I seldom remember the author or what it, because I don't go to the first page. I don't look at the cover. I just plow through the book. So this first one is Disclaimer by Renee Knight. And Lee Child is an author. So Renee Knight wrote this book, but Lee Child did a little, made a comment. And my Uncle Kenny, I used to buy my Uncle Kenny's books for him and ship them to him. And he loved this author, Lee Child. And Lee Child says, sensationally good psychological suspense, exactly what a great thriller should be. There stealthily steals your attention and by the end holds you prisoner, a searing story. So Renee Knight worked for the BBC. She was a documentary maker and then started writing. So this is number 1 on the list. Number 2, The Artist and the Feast by Lucy Steeds. This is an international bestseller. Lucy Steeds is a graduate of both Faber Academy and the London Library Emerging Writers Program. And she began writing this book while living in France. So this book is going to take place in a scorching summer in 1920s Provence. And so again, I think this is going to be a great summer read. And here's the third one. This is The Road to Tender Hearts, a national bestseller. And this is by Annie Hartnett. A miraculous novel, an actual and spiritual road trip you won't forget, says John Irving. Shelby Van Pelt, who wrote Remarkably Bright Creatures, the story of the octopus, and Sally Field was just in the movie. Shelby says, I loved every page of this wild, weird, big-hearted book. So there's my lineup for the next, month or so. Okay, so now I'm really going to say goodbye. Bye-bye.